I want to start with something almost everyone experiences, but rarely talks about honestly. You're living your life normally, working, walking, trying to focus on the present, and then suddenly, your mind pulls you backward. A memory appears, an old conversation, a mistake, a version of yourself you thought you'd already moved past. And before you realize it, you're no longer fully here. You're somewhere in the past again, replaying moments, reanalyzing decisions, thinking about what you should have said, what you should have done, what could have happened differently. And sometimes, it's not even a painful memory. It's just something unfinished, something unresolved, something your brain refuses to release. So the question becomes, why? Why can't you stop thinking about the past, even when you know you can't change it? Let's break it down. The first reason is unfinished emotional processing. Your brain doesn't like unresolved experiences, especially emotional ones. If something created regret, embarrassment, loss, confusion, your nervous system often keeps returning to it, trying to emotionally complete the experience, not consciously, automatically, because emotionally unfinished things feel psychologically open, and open loops are difficult for the brain to ignore. The second reason is identity. Your past is connected to how you see yourself, so when you think about old mistakes, your brain isn't just reviewing events, it's questioning identity. What does that say about me? Why was I like that? Did I ruin something important? And once memories become connected to self-worth, they gain emotional intensity. The third reason is emotional survival. Your brain believes revisiting painful moments might help protect you from repeating them. If I analyze it enough, maybe I'll never feel that pain again. So your mind keeps replaying the past, not because it enjoys suffering, but because it thinks reflection creates safety. The fourth reason is nostalgia. Not all thoughts about the past are painful. Sometimes the past feels emotionally safer than the present, more familiar, more emotionally meaningful, more emotionally alive, especially during lonely or uncertain periods of life, because the brain often returns to emotionally significant memories when the present feels emotionally empty. The fifth reason is regret. Regret creates one of the strongest mental loops humans experience, because regret creates the illusion that the past could still somehow be fixed. If only I had, if only I knew, if only I chose differently. And your brain keeps replaying alternate realities, trying to emotionally rewrite what already happened. The sixth reason is emotional attachment. Some memories stay alive because part of you is still emotionally attached to them, a person, a relationship, a version of yourself, a time in your life, and letting go emotionally often feels like losing something permanently, so your mind keeps returning to it, not because it's healthy, but because attachment is difficult for the brain to release. The seventh reason is overthinking. Some people don't just remember the past, they mentally live inside it, analyzing details repeatedly, searching for explanations, trying to understand every emotional layer perfectly. And eventually, thinking stops being reflection and becomes emotional rumination. The eighth reason is emotional sensitivity. Emotionally sensitive people often experience memories more intensely, not because they're weak, but because their nervous systems attach stronger emotional meaning to experiences, especially social and emotional ones, which means certain memories feel emotionally active, even years later. Now, here's where it gets important. The problem usually isn't memory itself. Memory is normal. The problem begins when your brain treats the past like an emergency that still needs solving. Because at that point, you're no longer remembering. You're mentally trying to control something that no longer exists, and that creates exhaustion. Because the mind keeps fighting reality, trying to change something irreversible. But here's the truth most people never realize. The past keeps hurting you, not because it still exists, but because your nervous system still reacts to it like it's happening now. And once you understand that, something begins to shift. You stop asking, how do I erase the memory? And start asking something different. Why does this still feel emotionally unfinished? because healing usually doesn't happen when you perfectly solve the memory. It happens when your nervous system finally stops treating it like unresolved danger. And that changes the way you experience the past completely, because now a memory can exist without pulling you completely back into it. You can remember without reliving. And maybe that's the real goal. Not forgetting your past, not pretending it never mattered, but learning how to carry it without letting it control your present, because the past will always exist in your memory. But it doesn't have to keep existing in your nervous system. And once your mind finally understands that, you stop living backward, and slowly, you begin returning to your life again. And once that begins happening, you notice something surprising. The memories themselves don't completely disappear, but the emotional grip starts weakening, because before, every memory felt like something you needed to solve, something that demanded analysis, explanation, closure. But now, you begin seeing the past differently, not as a problem to fix, but as something that already happened. And that sounds simple, but psychologically, that shift changes everything, because your nervous system stops fighting reality. It stops trying to rewrite moments that can't be rewritten, and slowly, that reduces the emotional pressure attached to the memory, not instantly, but gradually, like a wound finally being allowed to heal, because you stopped reopening it every night. And here's the part most people misunderstand. Letting go of the past doesn't mean the past suddenly becomes unimportant. It means your survival system no longer believes you need to stay emotionally trapped inside it, because for a long time, your brain thought staying attached to the memory was somehow protecting you from future regret, future pain, future mistakes. But eventually, your nervous system becomes exhausted from carrying things that no longer belong to the present moment. And once you start realizing that, you become more aware of how much emotional energy the past has been consuming, how many moments in your current life were partially overshadowed by memories you kept mentally revisiting. And maybe that's why healing often feels strange at first, because part of you became so used to carrying the past. That piece almost feels unfamiliar. But over time, your mind starts learning something new, that you can remember something without needing to emotionally live inside it, that memories can exist without controlling your identity, without controlling your emotions, without deciding your future. And once your nervous system truly believes that, the past finally starts losing its power to pull you backward, not because you erased it, but because you stopped treating it like unfinished danger. And maybe that's the real reason people stay stuck in the past for so long. Not because they want to suffer, but because some part of their mind still believes holding on to the pain will somehow keep them safe. And once you no longer need the pain for protection, you finally become free to move forward.